So I know this is a really hard question for you to answer because you're so humble, but I am going to ask it.
Oh,
What have you done on campus surrounding diversity issues?
what I have done, like personally, I think the biggest thing was joining CODA, the Community on Diversity Affairs. Like joining CODA was like my stepping stone into like at campus activism. Recently, especially with the list of demands presented to the president and the administration about racism on campus, I've been working very intently with the President's Committee on Diversity Affairs to help kind of give keep the student perspective in their minds and in their planning process throughout the new initiatives that are going on, because there's a ton going on right now, and I think a lot of times the university that gets into an idea about the whole university, but trying to keep them grounded in the student perspective, I think is really important.
What are the biggest barriers right now that students of colors and other minority groups face at
Yeah,
Lawrence?
I think the biggest barrier. Um, at first, I wanted to say like finances is the biggest barrier, but that's kind of like the secondary barrier, I think, because I think like for a lot of the low-income students, especially the students of low-income students of color on campus, they always end up finding a way to like make it at Lawrence. And I think the biggest barrier is kind of having this sense of belonging on campus and feeling that like they are um, like that the that Lawrence is a place where they see themselves and where they are appreciated for what they can offer and what they bring to the table in terms of being a Laurentian and being on campus.
In the years that you've been at Lawrence, how has the Diversity Center changed?
It's changed a lot. When I came in as a freshman, it was this tiny blue house on the like end of campus, and it was kind of like disconnected a little bit. Now the Diversity Center is in Memorial Hall. It's in this huge space. It has like tons of couches. Like it's just like this like relaxed place that like people still meet to have their clubs there, but a lot of more programming is happening in the Diversity Center because they now have the space to do that. It's being used now for a lot of different reasons, especially since the need before was a space to kind of feel at home and feel welcomed. And I think that feeling is like what people see in it every time that they walk in, which I think is a little different than before, where before it was kind of like, oh, this is just a Diversity Center where people just hang out and like meet to talk and have their programs and events. Where now it's kind of like, oh, the Diversity Center, like that's our place, that's our home, that's where we go.
What kinds of programs and activities do you think would make an impact if the Diversity Center had a greater set of resources, if the Diversity Center had a bigger pull on campus, if you will?
I think when we can do a lot more of programming inside the Diversity Center, um, especially on a spot that's like central to campus, that more people are going to see this as like a place where you can go in, you're welcome, there's a variety of different things that you can contribute to there, and you go leaving that space with this like broader range of like knowledge and like just thinking about the world, and also just like with new friends. Diversity centers across the country are spaces that attract different marginalized groups and different identity groups and different cultural groups, to say like this is a space for you where you can feel welcome and you can take advantage of that. And I think when people have this perception of like, oh, it's divisive, or oh, why do we need to have this for specifically students of color, or for specifically for queer students, or those questions, it should be an invitation for them to kind of come into the Diversity Center and see what it has to offer, because of it being this open space that's available to everybody, that there is a way for them to find their way into those discussions. And I think that it's actually doing more than just like providing a space. It's actually allowing different groups to connect with one another in ways that you wouldn't imagine before.
And I think what's amazing about it is going back, it still has that same positive feel and effect on an alum. Who would you say were your coaches at Lawrence?
Holly, definitely, like the director of the Multicultural Affairs Office, like Office of Multicultural Affairs, and not more of a coach, but more of just that like that um, person that I could go to for anything, whether it was to just talk about school, whether it was to just talk about events that were going on, stuff that Coda was doing, and just even just see like, hey, how is everybody like hanging out? How's everybody hanging in with like finals and things like that? Polly was definitely that person who I knew that even if I didn't talk to her for a whole month, that I could go in no matter what time. If she was there, she would drop whatever she was doing to help me out. The second person would probably be, like from an academic standpoint, would be Lavanya Proctor. Like she just got back to campus last year, and I've heard so many great things about her. And I was like, I have to take classes with her, so I enrolled in every class that she taught the whole year. And I think from that perspective, just having that other professor of color in that space, especially in my department, it made it a lot more like comfortable for me to like be able to see that like there's someone there who not only wanted to provide me with a good education, but also cared about my well-being.
My last question for you is, Lawrence has got a lot of work to do with regard to student issues on campus. Similar to other institutions, they've got a lot of thinking to do about how to handle a lot of these issues. In spite of that, or maybe because of that, what aspects of Lawrence do you believe in?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that question a lot, especially as I'm graduating and thinking about like what Lawrence will be like post graduation and like the role that it will play in my life. And I think the students here have a right to their education, they have a right to their safety, they have a right to a place that's going to support and develop who they are as people, like they say they will. So I think graduating Lawrence, I will always come back for the students, for the people, for my peers, for like my friends, because that's what has kept me on this campus, and I think that's who creates the change on this campus. It's the students who are not afraid to share their experiences, share their opinions, and share their expertise and the knowledge that they have about how to create that change. And so much that like when I leave, there's going to be somebody like after me who's going to still be there doing the same thing. And I think it takes a lot of like courage. It takes a lot of resilience. I think that's what Lawrence does to you, is it creates a resilient person. What I believe in is I believe in the students, and I believe in also the faculty and staff of color on campus who are very dedicated to creating this change. I think the reason why I did the work I did was because people before me in my positions were the voices, and those people really inspired me to sit there and be like, I have all these resources and all these tools and everything I can offer to do for students to make this campus a better place.